Alright everybody, so welcome back to Jim Bob's Garden. So today what I want to show you, I got an issue with my peppers. Alright, so I've got two sections of peppers. Let me kind of show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so what has happened though with the peppers is that these peppers are not growing nearly as well as my others. If you can see these, they're about a foot tall on average, maybe a foot and a half. And you can see they're looking kind of sparse. And then over here, I bought peppers. Those are the ones that I just showed you were from my own seed. These are peppers that are doing much better. They're about 2 foot tall, almost twice the size, putting out more peppers, and they stay moist longer. And let me kind of show you something interesting here. So if you look down at this soil, by the way, there's a whole bunch of banana peppers up in there I got to harvest. But anyway, so if you look at this soil here, when I dig down just a little ways, I start to get into moister, nicer soil. I know you can't really see that, but it's actually slightly moist underneath there. Even in the areas where it's not mulched. And up underneath the mulch, let's just see. It's moist right at the top and cooler, quite a bit cooler. All right, you see that's darker dirt, still not the best dirt. So obviously, what I need to do is I need to get some mulch on top of it. But even where it wasn't mulched, over in that spot, it was more moist than it is over here. Now what holds in moisture? Well, what holds in moisture is biomass, basically organic material in the soil. Now, I just put on this compost. I'll explain that in a second. But if you look at this dirt, it's extremely dry. Even when I dig down deep, I still don't find that moisture. And it's very sandy soil here. So obviously what I need to do is I need to get more organic material into the soil. The problem is, if I wanted to do that in this bed, the best way to do it would be to pull the plants out, dig up the plants, and then work that compost down into the soil. But I don't really have that option. So let me show you what I'm going to do instead. Well, alright, first off, first step I've done is you can see the nice dark material that's on top. That's a wagon load of compost that I put in, and that compost is now, as you can see, an inch, about 2 inches deep. Alright, so I got 2 inches. I took dirt off. Never waste dirt, so I took it and put it over there in that little pile there. And then I took and I put about a 2-inch layer of compost on top. So that'll kind of work its way down into the soil, and it'll help to retain some of the moisture. Because see, moisture in sandy soil goes two directions. It goes up through evaporation. When the sun hits a baked or an open soil, essentially what ends up happening is it heats it up and cooks the moisture out of it. So this will put a layer above it to keep that from happening. But also you have moisture in sandy soil that goes down through the soil. So I can't do anything about that right now because I cannot put more organic matter into it. Alright, so then what I got to do is I got to get some mulch to put on top of this dark soil, because that dark soil will soak up the heat a lot more and make it much warmer. So we got to get some mulch. Alright, so what I got here, I mowed the yard Friday and today's Monday. And by the way, it rained here the day before yesterday at the tune of about an inch. And still you can see how dry my dirt is, which is ridiculous. Most other places, if you get an inch of rain, it's going to be, you know, at least a week before, you know, you start to dry out. So that's one of the things I have to deal with. But basically this is grass clippings that I mowed up well, it was Friday, so today's Monday, so 4 days ago. Now over that time, what has happened is it has started to break down. Ooh, man. And down in there, it's so hot that I have a hard time holding it with my bare hands. So you kind of got to be careful with it. That's what we want. We want it to heat up And that heat will do two things. It'll kill weed seed, but it'll also cause it to break down. That's actually, the heat helps somewhat, but it's actually the action of the bacteria breaking it down which creates that heat. So what I want to do is I got to gather some of this up, and because it's the only mulch material that I have, I'm going to use this on my peppers. I mean, you know, I could go out and buy mulch, but that just seems silly when I've got all of this that eventually is going to become compost, which I do need the compost, obviously, but at the same time, mulch right now is much more important. So this time of the year, because the grass is really growing well here in Florida, that's the best time to gather up your grass clippings and to get a good solid mulch going on your gardens. Ooh, man, that's hot. Dang. So one of the issues you run into with the grass clippings is they heat up quick. All right, it's a very hot mulch, or I'm sorry, compost, and it heats up very quickly. Like I'm talking about the next day, sometimes even that day, depending on what time of the day you mow, it'll already be starting to get up over 100 degrees. Now obviously that's not good for your plants to put it right up next to. So the way I get around that is I put it down a handful at a time. Alright, so essentially what will happen is that heat will be allowed to dissipate as I place it down. Alright, so what I'm doing to try and alleviate my issue here, so what I'm going to do to try and alleviate the issue that I have with my peppers here, one, I'm putting compost out. Now the compost is going to do two things for me. It's going to get some composting materials down into the soil. That will all leach in as I water it. And two, I'm going to put compost over it. Compost. I'm going to put mulch over the top of the compost. That'll give me a multi-layered effect. That will help to keep this ground cooler, which will help to keep the moisture in, at least keep it from evaporating out. Plus this will also biodegrade down and create more biomass into the soil. And then this fall, when all of this dies back or freezes off, I'm going to take all of this out and I'm going to completely rehab the soil here to try and make it a more fertile, more inclusive of biomaterials and biomass inside the soil. And hopefully by that time I'll have some biochar to put in it as well. So that charcoal will get in there and it'll be a carbon sink, plus it'll also hold water and bacteria inside the soil. Alright, so if you have this issue, if you have a problem where your soil is constantly drying out, this is my suggestion to you on how to deal with that, and that would be to lay down a layer of compost. Now if you got to pull dirt out, because like this bed, you know, because I keep adding compost and keep adding mulch materials, has gotten full. So that's why I'm going to have to remediate later to take some of the dirt out. But if you have room, you go ahead and lay the compost down. If not, pull some dirt out. That's what I did. I scraped the dirt up around the plants, trying to leave the root systems intact as best I could, and pulled that dirt out, giving myself more space to be able to put the compost down without overflowing the bed. But you can also mount it up in the center. And then after that, I'm putting the mulch materials down on the bed. And then the last thing I'll do, particularly because this is nice hot compost, mulch materials, I will have to water very thoroughly. One, to get the water down into the soil, but two, to cool that mulch so that it doesn't burn the plants. Alright, so basically a three-step process for me to improve the soil and get it to where it no longer dries out as quickly. One, remove some soil. Two, add compost, a good thick layer, about 2 inches of compost. Three, I'm going to add probably about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of mulch materials, which is essentially just grass clipping. Alright, so that's what I do to solve my issues with drying. Let me know what you do. If you've got a better idea, please leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Other than that, thank you for stopping by. Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think. Give me some comments. And most importantly, grow something. And keep in mind, just because it doesn't go great doesn't mean you can't fix it. You can't improve on it. Alright? Growing something is difficult, but it's not rocket science, guys. Ask the question, look for the answers, and then use your common sense to come up with the best solution possible and grow something. Thanks once again.